playing great basketball.
Defender to the basket, Jason Tatum.
We covering pre and post game back on this channel.
Welcome into Celtics Postgame Live, everybody. I'm Justin Lowe alongside my co-host Ian Inangelo. The Boston Celtics defeat the Brooklyn Nets 103-92. The Celtics get back on track. They improve to 19-5 in the regular season. JB 34, JT 29. This game, Ian, was bittersweet in the sense of it was bitter because that was the worst the has played all season. Yet sweet because the Celtics were able to pull it out, yet have their best defensive performance of the season. What were your thoughts on this game? Because like I said, bittersweet.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. This was obviously the Celtics' worst offensive game they've had all season. You would assume, I mean, I think the reason why they played so bad was because Marcus Smart wasn't there. Obviously, having Marcus Smart there makes a huge difference.
Right.
And, he wasn't there tonight. But at the same time, you're very encouraged because this is the first time all season that the Celtics have looked like the elite defense that they had last season, where they just will clamp opponents up and they'll just score, enough baskets to win. So that's kind of how this game went for me.
When it got down to crunch time where it was, in fact, close, Jason Tatum, who relatively had off night, wasn't really getting any turnovers, wasn't really getting himself in the game, got himself a few steals late, and it turned into transition buckets. He had a huge transition dunk and then a three that really put this game out of reach late. How encouraging is that? And to see, I said to Rob the other night, like Jason Tatum had an off night against the Heat the other night. He kind of he finished with 29, but he kind of sort of had an off night tonight against Brooklyn. But you have that counter punch, that Jaylen Brown, 37 against Miami, follows that up with a 34 and a win. How big is that for this team?
Yeah, it's such a blessing to realize that you can run your offense through Jason Tatum, who is legitimately an MVP candidate this season. And if, granted, we said that he had an off night tonight, but 10 of 19, 3 of 6 from 3. If that's an off night, I would like to see that as an off night. And obviously, we don't talk about the 9 turnovers, but that was something else. Anyway, but the fact that we have a guy that's an MVP candidate that we can run our offense through, and at the same time have another guy who is also a top 10 MVP candidate in Jaylen Brown, who can just turn it on whenever. And he absolutely came out of the gate swinging. 20 points in the first quarter was absolutely insane. And Jaylen Brown made up for a good chunk of our points, honestly, because 34 points tonight on 10 of 20 shooting, 5 of 9 from 3. It's just such a blessing to have two guys that are like this on our team.
And it's so crazy to see. We always talk about how Tatum's game has evolved. Let's talk about Jaylen Brown, right? Come in that first quarter. He had 20 of his 34 points in that first quarter. Started the game 4-4 from 3-point range. We know Jaylen Brown could shoot the ball, but it was kind of how he shot it. He was getting his looks. He was creating his own shot, and it was just flowing beautifully. Then when the shots weren't falling, he's able to get to that mid-range or inside the paint so easily. What did you see in Jaylen Brown's game tonight?
Honestly, I think you saw a Jaylen Brown that was just there from the jump. Like, you saw a different Jaylen Brown than it feels like we've seen in a while. Right. He just looked, for a game that lacked a whole lot of energy, Jaylen Brown looked like one of the few players on the court that were actually playing with a lot of energy. And Jaylen Brown was huge because there were times where the Celtics couldn't get a bucket, and no matter what they tried, nothing was working. And Jaylen Brown would come up with a huge bucket or two just to keep the Nets at bay, because the Nets cut it close. They cut it to like a 2-point lead in the fourth quarter. But Jaylen Brown was right there. He was able to, keep everything stable, and he was able to finish it off. And then Jason Tatum ended up finishing off completely.
Yeah, and the thing about Brown is coming into the draft and throughout Jaylen Brown's career, we know he can bring it defensively. He brought it defensively tonight, a couple of steals and 4 blocks. I also want to mention, we talk about Tatum turned the ball over tonight. Jaylen Brown, since he got into the NBA, his main concern, or his main, his weak point was was turning the ball over. He was a turnover machine, and he'll tell you that. Tonight he had 0 turnovers, Ian. 0 turnovers on a night where he had 34 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, and 4 blocks. And he shot 10 of 20 from the floor, which that's 50%, which for a game like tonight, where the offense was not there, that is 100%. So the Celtics take that for sure. And then the turnovers kind of concerned me a little bit. 17 turnovers on 17 assists. But the reason why I think the Celtics turned the ball over, and I told Rob this during the game today, was the Celtics weren't moving. It seemed like they were moving the ball. It didn't seem like they were even moving off ball. A lot of ISO ball, and I guess that Brooklyn defense kind of forces you to play ISO ball. What did you see from the Celtics tonight? Maybe why they were turning the ball over so much?
Yeah, and I mean, I was saying this during the stream I was on. I was like, we're lucky that we grew up in a time with the 3-point shot being so prevalent and fast-paced being something that's good, because this is what people had to grow up watching in the 90s and the early 2000s.
That's a good point. Right.
Just boring ISO ball. And I'm not going to discredit, other NBAs, but you can tell that this is a very more boring style of basketball to watch. And, the Nets, you got to give them credit. Their defense just makes you play that way. And granted, their defense, I don't know. They have a good defense, but it feels like
it's not crazy, right?
It feels like it's not as good as it looks. I think they're second in the league in defense right now, which is crazy. But it doesn't feel that way just watching it. It feels like everyone's just kind of there. And right. There was the only thing that worked. And I want to credit, I don't know if we're going to talk about it eventually, but when Malcolm Brogdon would find the guy in the corner, because that shot was open the entire first half, and it felt like they never found it until Malcolm Brogdon ended up finding it in the fourth quarter. And he had 3 or 4 assists in a row where he would just pass it to the corner, and it would just be an easy 3.
So before we go on, I want to mention our player spotlight tonight was Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown earning his 5th player spotlight of the season. He's won 2 player spotlights in a row. He had 37 in Miami and then now 34 here tonight in Brooklyn. So Jaylen Brown closing in on that Jason Tatum 3 player spotlights away. Could he get it during this road trip? We'll have to find out. But tonight, JB, you are tonight's player spotlight. A guy I want to mention, because if I could give players two players. And honestly, this guy would have gotten it if Jaylen Brown hadn't been so hot and played the way he played on both. It would have been Malcolm Brogdon. This guy was, and I said this to Rob in the fourth quarter. I says, I understand Jaylen Brown had 34. Malcolm Brogdon had a legitimate run for player spotlight tonight. He was the difference maker. Without Malcolm Brogdon in tonight's game, I don't think the Celtics could have pulled this one out. I really don't. And that just goes to show you the depth from this season compared to last season. That one guy in Malcolm Brogdon. Marcus Smart was out, and who stepped up? It was Malcolm Brogdon.
Oh, yeah. We've been saying it. If Malcolm Brogdon was on this team last year, the Celtics would have won the finals. The things, we've been wanting for years to get the Celtics to have a guy who can, a legit guy off the bench, who can legit just run the offense. He can do his own thing as well as make plays for others. And Malcolm Brogdon has been the guy that we've been talking about for years and years and years now. And now that he's finally here, he's proving as to why we wanted him so bad. It's just, right. He always makes the big play. Every single time, the other team's on a run and everything is looking bad, Malcolm Brogdon will hit a 3, or Malcolm Brogdon will make a pass to someone to hit a 3. It just feels like Malcolm Brogdon's always at the right place at the right time, and he's always making the big shot to either stop a rally or to start one for the Celtics.
And I think that fourth quarter rally, there were 3 straight plays where the weak side corner was wide open, and Malcolm Brogdon he drove every single, and he got the assist. And like you said, that's a guy the Celtics have been missing. He flirted with a triple-double tonight, and he had 13 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists. You've got a guy flirting with a triple-double coming off your bench. You're an elite team. And hey, Marcus Smart didn't play tonight. That was the exact performance we needed from a guy like Malcolm Brogdon. And Derek White struggled tonight. I thought it was going to be a Derek White legacy game. And this, said this before. Smart but it was not. It was the opposite. White was 1 of 7 from the floor. But on a night where White is off and Smart is out, and you have a guy like Malcolm Brogdon to come in there and play like that and help you get this win, that says a lot about this team, Ian, for sure. Look, let's spend this last 10 to 12 minutes of this show talking about tomorrow's matchup, because this game was like you could tell it. Honestly, Ian, I think this game felt like it was the second night of a back-to-back. Like that's what it looked like. That's what it felt like. Tomorrow night, Marcus Smart, hopefully back. I don't know, and I doubt Al Horford if we're going the pattern that we've been going on, second night of back-to-back. Horford won't play tomorrow. So what are you looking for tomorrow? I mean, this Raptors team is better than their record. We know that. They always play the Celtics well, both home and away. Pascal Siakam is on having a great season so far. Obviously, they have Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr. as well.
I mean, I would like them to carry over their defense from tonight's game into the game against the Nets. Obviously, I feel like that would be huge for them. And another thing, I just want them to play with more energy. I mean, the fact tonight, they just looked, I don't know if they, I don't really know what was going on, but they just kind of looked bored out there. Like it looked like, we're just going to take the ball. We're just going to dribble out the shot clock. And then eventually we'll just throw up a random 3 or we'll turn the ball over. But that's just kind of what it looked like tonight. And I would like the Celtics to do more off-ball movement, just running around, trying to get open, just trying to get the defense off their toes, just to be able to open up lanes for them to either move and kick out the ball or to just score to the basket. Because it felt like tonight they just didn't look like they ever woke up. Like it looked like they were just still asleep. So, I mean, you would like them to play with more energy tomorrow. And you kind of have to, because we already know how the Toronto Raptors are just a pain in the ass. Next to the Miami Heat, I think the Toronto Raptors are the second best team at being a pain in the ass to the Celtics, behind the Miami Heat. So,
yeah, for sure, and potential for in December, but it's still cool to look at these types of things. Something I want to mention is the minutes. And because I understand this was a closer game than the Celtics might have been accustomed to, but on a first night of a back-to-back, Jaylen Brown played 40 minutes, Malcolm Brogdon 32, Grant Williams 35, Jason Tatum 36. Does that kind of concern you a little bit, or was that just kind of how the game had to unfold with it being so close?
I honestly think it was just what it had to be, because it just felt like outside of our starting unit, there really wasn't anything else going on. I felt like the Celtics had to do that. And the Brooklyn Nets kind of did the same thing, because KD had 39, almost 40 minutes tonight. Kyrie had 40 minutes. Royce O'Neal played 41 minutes. I mean, it just kind of felt like that's just how the game was going to go. Obviously, you'd like them to play less as time goes on. But I still feel like we're at a point where it's still like somewhat the beginning of the season where you don't have to worry about that too much. I mean, that's just me personally. I mean, I don't really feel, I don't know, maybe I just don't really know the legitimate impacts of it, but like I don't feel like sitting a game out in December is going to do much for you by the time the playoffs hit. I feel like the more rest towards the end of the season is more important, at least just my opinion. But yeah, I mean, you obviously don't want 40 minutes every night by Tatum and Brown. But I mean, if you can, it just kind of felt like that's just what it was tonight.
Correct. Right. Yeah. Tonight, I don't want to. This is like no knock on Missoula whatsoever, but tonight felt like a Ime Udoka night in terms of a tough, gritty, low-scoring game. The defense was there. The offense wasn't. The Celtics only really went 8-man deep. They ended up playing 9, but I'm not counting the last 2 minutes where Cornette, Vonleh, and Jackson went. So the Celtics really only played 8 men deep, which the Celtics aren't accustomed to again. But like you said, it was probably just one of those nights where that just had to have happened.
Yeah, another thing, like, I mean, I don't know if you were gonna get to this topic, but I hate to cut you off. But like the timeout thing, I mean, I had people talking about, and this happened obviously at the beginning of the game when they were down 11-2 to start, and they went on a 14-0 run, and then the timeout didn't hit. I felt like personally, and like I'm on board with not calling the timeout, because it's worked so far. But I felt like in that third quarter, you could have called a timeout at any point. Like, it just felt like you needed to call one eventually. Like, I mean, they didn't call a timeout until like 2 minutes left in the third quarter. Like, I mean, your team legitimately did nothing the entire third quarter.
Yeah.
I mean,
You
I
know
feel
what?
like you needed to at least just regroup. Like, you didn't even have to say anything. Just like regroup and just let them
sit there.
just like sit there, just like chill out, just do something. I don't know, but like
Right.
just something had to change in that third quarter. And I felt like a timeout could have been used there. And
Yeah.
again, I mean, I don't really know. He said Joe Mazzulla says it all the time where like timeouts, they might not even work depending
Right.
on when you use them. And like again, I'm very okay with Joe Mazzulla not calling a timeout most of the time. I just felt like in the third quarter it kind of should have happened.
Right now, I don't disagree with you, but I also don't think anything was saving the Celtics from how horrible that third quarter was. And as horrible as that third quarter was, the Celtics only held the Brooklyn Nets to, I think it was 18 points.
It was like 15 points.
Yeah. And on top of that, they still led going into that fourth quarter by like 6 or so, whatever it was, 4, 5, 6. So, yeah, I mean, that was just the Celtics defense coming third quarter, not just letting them miss shots, distract them from what really mattered. And that was getting down low and playing good defense, and that's what Celtics. That is what the Celtics did. I think that's their eighth straight win against the Brooklyn Nets as well, dating back to last season, which
including the playoffs.
Definitely including the playoffs. 4 regular season wins, 4 playoff wins, and these Celtics, they're even in their wins. Tonight didn't look so pretty, but they still were able to find a way to win, which this game last year, the Celtics would not have won.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like, good teams just find ways to win. I mean, the Celtics overall, I mean, they still shot 43% from the field. I mean, 40% from 3. I mean, that kind of feels like an off night, honestly. And
because
like,
of how dominant we've been.
Exactly. Like, I mean, the Celtics have been averaging like 50% from the field and 50% from 3.
Right.
So, like, I mean, even having just like an off night where that's what your shooting percentage is and you're still able to find a way to win, by 11, I mean, that's still pretty huge. And I mean, it kind of felt like the Nets were never going to get into the game. Like, they were always close,
right?
But like, they never felt like the Nets were really going to make it a game.
This reminded me of in terms of the runs, not necessarily the scoring and the intensity. This kind of reminded me of the Pelicans game where the Celtics always had control.
Oh, yeah.
But the Nets would always cut that deficit down, but the deficit down, the Celtics boosted it right back up. That's the kind of vibe that this game had. I wanted to mention something. I forgot what it was. Oh, yeah. Al Horford out tomorrow, most likely. Who gets to start? Who gets to start?
Well, I mean, we got plenty of good options. I mean,
there's only one
we could possibly see Grant Williams, Luke Cornett, Noah Vonleh, maybe. But
you're forgetting.
I have a feeling there's one guy you have in mind.
He got a video tribute tonight in Brooklyn. This guy we're talking about, number 9, dunks over Kias. Who is he? It's Blake Griffin. Come on. Listen, tomorrow is going to be interesting to see kind of who plays. Is Smart coming back? He did make the trip, but is Smart coming back? Or are they going to save him for the West Coast? On top of that, is Horford going to play? It's obviously a most likely not, but he has not officially been ruled out, so we can't, put any, marks on that yet. Or X marks on that yet. Obviously, Robert Williams and Gallinari made the trip, but they're not going to play. Abby Chin said that Joe Mazzulla said that Robert Williams is really close to a return, which that, yes, raises eyebrows, flares the nostrils, like gets you a little smile on the face. Is it happening this West Coast trip? No, but is it happening? Could happen shortly after this West Coast trip, which is what it's sounding like, which is just unbelievable.
I don't know. I would look out for like the 18th versus Orlando. That's a Sunday at 3:00 in the afternoon. I mean, I feel like that could be a game that he could come back in.
Is that
or the Pacers game?
December of 18th?
Yeah, December 18th.
Is that like one of the first games back at home? That's like second, right? Because don't we?
Yeah, it's
we
the
play
second
Orlando
because
twice.
the first game back at home is the 16th at 7:30.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just feel like if he's as close as we think, I feel like that would be the game. Or the Indiana game on the 21st.
This felt like a game Robert Williams played in because of the defensive intensity and all the blocks
and the
we saw
blocks
tonight. The blocks were insane.
Everyone had a block tonight. Even Sam Hauser blocked.
Sam Hauser had a block. That's great. I said Sam Hauser is now officially a 3-and-D player. The starters tonight had 4 for Brown, 3 for Horford, and 1 for Derek White, and then Sam Hauser's block off the bench.
I didn't even notice Brown had 4 blocks in this game.
Yeah, he had 4 blocks.
I knew he had a couple, but I didn't even know he had 4.
Yeah, so, I mean, geez, Celtics defensively, this was easily their best defensive game.
This is the first game all year we held the team under 100.
No, we had the Wizards by 94, but that was not really anything. Like, the Wizards, like, I'd rather hold the team like the Nets. Like, this is a game to gloat about. Like, the Nets, they have Kyrie and KD.
This is a season low then, but...
Yeah, still like a great defensive game. A season low, 92 points to Kevin Durant. Kyrie Irving struggled tonight. He picked up a tech. He was just having a rough night, 7 of 20. Funny because Scalabrine mentioned this on the broadcast, and this doesn't just go for Kyrie. It kind of goes for any player, especially superstars, but especially it feels like Kyrie Irving is he draws all these oohs and ahs from the crowd and like, oh my God, this guy's insane. And then you look up and he's shooting 7 for 21. From the floor. So it's like,
well, I mean, I guess, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. You don't talk about 7 to 21 on SportsCenter. You just talk about the crazy, highlight reel plays.
Top
and like, I mean,
plays.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, it just kind of looked like Kyrie was just taking a whole bunch of like weird shots. Like there was like a bunch of like easy shots he would pass up on, and then he would just try to take the contested shot for some reason.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, whatever.
Look,
I don't. That's another thing. I don't even think we hate Kyrie anymore. Like Boston, I think we're pretty much over that at this point.
See, I never hated Kyrie Irving. I just thought he was a weirdo, and I just wasn't like I don't hate the guy. Like, I mean, whatever, it is what it is. Like, I feel like after last year, we swept them. Like, look, we got what we wanted. We beat Kyrie. Like, we took him down after he stomped on the logo and left us. Like, we're successful without him. Like, drop it.
I don't think I was ever on the F Kyrie chance, but
no,
I was on the booing Kyrie.
I was one of those define how Kyrie sucks type guys. Like the crowd was chanting Kyrie's at basketball. Does he suck? Does his personality suck? Does he suck? Like, define that.
Well,
I know. I know, but like what I'm saying is like Kyrie Irving does not. My point is Kyrie Irving does not suck at basketball as much as like we could. Disagree with what he says off the court, on the court, whether we can, disagree with his decision to leave Boston or not. Like, there's no doubt Kyrie Irving is an unbelievable talent on the basketball court. He does not suck at basketball. That's kind of why I was like, define sucks. But
yeah, I mean, Kyrie doesn't suck, but like it's just like. We don't have to talk. Obviously, all of that stuff happened after he left Boston, so I don't think we can really talk about that as to, reasoning as to why we didn't like him. But like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Just trying to remember because like I remember in the moment like when he was leaving, I was like I already knew he was gonna leave. Like there was no way he was.
After that Brooklyn series, after that Game 5. He had like he said I should have taken 100 more shots. Like
yeah, and he shot like 8 of he's like yeah, you'll never see another like 8 of 21 performance out of me again, and then he shoots like 4 of 20 or something like that.
Yeah, and he says I should have taken 100 more shot like instantly. Like
I know I want to guard Giannis.
You're gone.
Yeah.
And then Terry Rozier left. Like
it was over after that. But
look,
whatever.
We can't dwell on the past. If anything, we have to look ahead for the future because we'll be right back here tomorrow night. It's funny because we're wrapping up post game here, and we'll be in the middle of like the third quarter come tomorrow night. But Celtics Raptors first game of the season before we probably see about 3 or 4 games worth of Toronto and Boston, which is funny because we already see 3 games from Miami. We've seen 2 of Cleveland. We've seen 3 of Chicago. Yet this is our first game against Brooklyn and Raptors, and they're in our friggin' division. So a little weird.
We haven't even seen Milwaukee yet.
Right. We don't see them for another 3 weeks. Yeah, Christmas Day.
That's wild.
Right.
And we've only seen Philly once.
Yeah. So I mean, it's the scheduling's really, really whack. But Celtics Raptors tomorrow night. I'm Justin Lowe. That's Ian Inangelo. We'll be back here tomorrow night for Celtics Postgame Live. The Boston Celtics defeat the Brooklyn Nets 103-92, improved to 19-5 on the regular season. JB with 34, JT with 29. I'm Justin. That's Ian. We'll see you tomorrow.